Hello and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're doing something different for the first time where we are going to show you through a pond build for a client from start to finish. This is the finished product, so I hope you enjoy watching us get to this point. Let's get into it.
Building a pond can be broken down into 4 main stages: deciding on your initial shape, then the actual dig itself, lining, and then finally filling and decorating. This build, we consulted with the client and she asked us to do anything that was not just a straight edge shape. She didn't want a basic circle or a square, so we decided on a kidney bean. As you can see, we removed the top layer of turf and reserved that for the client, and then began the dig in earnest. The top layer of this garden is just a very thin layer of topsoil, and we immediately hit clay. Clay is so much harder to dig, and what made this dig out particularly difficult was that there was no side access to the house, so we had to bucket each individual section of this pond into a skip outside. We reserve some of the clay because it's really useful for dressing in later. And with a dig like this, it obviously goes quicker with 2 people, so someone can continue digging while the other person goes through the house and dumps the soil. This took us a few hours, but we got to a point where we were ready to start leveling. We use a laser level to get the average depth all the way round, pretty much in level, but you're always going to have high and low spots with more naturally shaped ponds like this. And then we use a multi-cutter to cut into the top layer of turf so that we can loosen it up and hide the underlay and liner. In all our pond builds, we use a high tensile underlay just to protect the liner from any sharp objects that you may miss when doing the initial dig. You don't necessarily have to do this, and if you want to save some money, you can use something like carpet or cloth. But we've always gone with Gordon Low because we find that it just is the best thing to work with. It's not too expensive and doesn't add too much to the overall cost of the pond itself. It's not too thick and it will allow you to retain the shape that you have worked so hard to dig out. Once the underlay is in place, we lay the liner out, cut it to size, and tuck it into the shape of the pond. It's at this point that we're ready to fill, and we decided that this would be a good time to go and pick up our hardscape. Now, when it comes to hardscape, it's important that you choose rockery, wood, or any other kind of stone that is fish safe and wildlife safe, as a lot of limestones can leach into the water. So for this build, we went for a black mountain rock, which was in keeping with the client's garden. Additionally, we went for some indigo pebbles, which are completely fish safe and again will look really nice against the black mountain rock overall. We then lay the initial hardscape into the shelving of the pond and begin to cut the liner so that it sits nicely underneath the turf. It takes a long time for us to lift the turf up and tuck the underlay and liner underneath it, but doing this will give you a nice finish to the pond itself. But be warned, you may not be able to see the lowest points and you will have to give it some time to let it find its level. Because this garden's on a slope, there is a slight mound from where we have the liner going underneath it on the bottom end of the pond, but we do find that this kind of bulge will just blend in over the years, particularly with the amount of planting that's going in. You can also see Martin setting up the electrics and placing in some of the features that our client chose. Additionally, you can see a lily going in there. And when it comes to planting, we went for a nice mixture of marginal plants. Now, if you're doing this at home, do just choose whatever your local aquatics centre has. But personally, I always look for a variety of different plants at different levels. I like plants that are going to spread out over the surface of the pond and into the grassy edge. Then some more mid-height plants like iris, and additionally some taller plants like Loostrife. Having a wide variety of plants is just going to encourage as much wildlife into the garden as possible, and the addition of a lily is going to give some much needed cover in the hot summers for any fish that the client decides to have. With a pond this wide and deep, the client can more than happily keep some comet goldfish without having to worry about overstocking the pond too much. Again, with the addition of filtration, the pond should find its balance and remain relatively clear as long as the filtration is regularly maintained. Now, this is where that clay that we retained earlier starts to come into play. I start to use it to dress in around the back of some plant pots that we have just placed in, and it's just excellent for hiding in that black liner edge, and it allows you to have a platform to use the indigo stones or any other stones that you choose to use to hide in any high spots that you don't want to see. Clay's also excellent for making sure that your stones are going to stick in place. It sticks to the liner and makes sure everything's nice and secure. Additionally, you can make pseudo bog areas, which are just brilliant for putting your marginals directly into the pond with. At this point, it was late in the day, so we decided to call it there and come back again the next morning. We started off the day by washing off the additional hardscape, and Martin worked on the lighting, setting up a photo cell so that the lights will only come on at night. You can see here that I've placed rockery all around the outside of the pond. Now this is great for hiding in any missed spots or low or high levels, and I am just working with clay all the way around, making sure that all of the rocks are nice and in place. Dressing in a pond is always the most rewarding part of a job for me. I absolutely love creating little areas for wildlife to survive and thrive. And working with clay in particular is one of the main ways we make ponds look so natural. I came up with the idea after watching a few videos online of people making entire ponds out of clay itself. And when we were called in to try and fix one client's particularly badly built pond, and found that clay was one of the best ways to create pseudo shelving to house plants with, it's kind of stuck ever since. It's just such a great way of dressing in edging. It holds rockery in place, and you can create these boggy little spots where you don't have to use the plastic that the plants come in to house them in the pond itself. You can create these nice little beds that allow water to come in and out, and then you can plant the plants directly into it. And because clay is a natural medium, the plants can root directly into it. And if you use it to go up into the edging of the pond itself, things like Lishmachia or mint will be able to grow into the turf, making the pond look even more established over time. It's just such a great way of hiding black liner and really making a beautiful environment for everything to really thrive. Partway through dressing, Martin had finished with all the electrics, so we got the Filtral 9000 by Oase set up in the centre with a three-way splitter on it to run 3 separate water features. We got them in place and then finally got towards the end of the decoration portion of this pond. But it was at this point that the client decided she wanted even more planting inside of the pond itself. So we are never going to dissuade anyone from that. And we went back to our shop, picked up a variety of different marginals, and headed on back to site to finish up the final decorations.
So that's how we got to this point. We finished up with some pots that, as I spoke about earlier, you can just place straight into the water. These will grow absolutely fine. They are bog marginal plants, a mixture of brook lime, some wild garlic. We've got pennyroyal, which is one of my favorites. It's a mentha, so it smells like mint. We raised the lily up so that the leaves are slightly emergent and the flower isn't going to just drown under the water. And then next year, when the client's ready, we'll just drop the lily down, and then it will grow to the surface on its own. The water is going to be filtrated using a Filtral 9000, which means the water isn't going to go pea green. And it's going to be filtrated to a point where hopefully it should find balance, be crystal clear, and when she's ready, she can have some goldfish of her choice. I'm really happy with how this build has turned out. We've got a mixture of marginal planting, some of them out of their pots with clay covers around the outside. All of the rock is held in place by clay and then covered with different rockery. So hopefully the client is happy as well. And I hope you've enjoyed watching this process. But for now, that's all from me here at Pond Life Aquatics, and I hope you'll join me again next time for this Pond Life. Oh yeah, and leave me a comment if you want to see us do more ponds like this in future.